Hello there, it's me, Sari, here again. Video number 9 in the series of fun card folding techniques. And today I'll be talking to you about tunnel cards, which also could be called peekaboo cards or perhaps even shadow box cards. Many names to choose from there. And I have done one of these, and I have just done some creative stamping in the front. I have repeated the stamping in the center. And I've also done a sort of a peekaboo thingy or a tunnel thingy or a shadow box thingy in the center, like so. So it's a nice looking card, and you can also do some stamping on this shadow box thingy if you want to. So in order to get started, let me show you. It might be easier for you to start off with a rectangular or square shape in the center. You do have to fiddle a little bit more with a circular shape, and I'll be talking to you about that too. But let me get started with this one. In this case I have used a paper that is 6 by 12 inches. I have scored it at the center. This bit is a little bit smaller, so let's say it could be approximately 11.5 inches times 5.5 inches. I have scored it at the center. What could it be? Let's see if I can get it flat enough. I have scored it at, well, it seems like it's scored at 5 3/4, sort of. And then I have decided on having, I believe it's not 3 centimeters, and it's just not an inch. It's a little bit more than an inch. It's 1.25 inches on either side, and then I decided on actually cutting it into the paper at approximately 2 inches. It's more like 1 7/8 of inch, so of an inch. And I just had it folded like that, and I scored or cut a U out of it, and in that case I got this shape. What you could do, having done so, is that you place this inner piece on the outer piece, and you trace what you want to do or how much room you're going to have there. So you can see that I have a square or a rectangular shape there, so I know where to put my text, and in this case I've just written hej in Swedish there. So that's one thing you could go do about it. Let's see if I can show you how I made it with this one. I have some different measurements for this time, but all you have to think about basically is just taking a piece of paper and score it in half. In this case I have 8.5 times 5.5, and in this case 4.25 will be the center measurement. So I have scored it, and I have creased it, and I have reinforced the crease like so, putting the card base into the corner of my score pad. Then I have taken another piece of paper which is a little bit smaller, as you can see. This one is 8 by 5 inches. So 8 by 5, and the centerpiece for the 8 is of course 4 inches, so that is where I started making my score mark. And then I decided on, let's say I could have 1.5 inch on either side, so 1.5 there, and the next one is going to be at 6.5. And then I did the scoring and just making the creases, and after that I decided on what size of a circle I wanted to put here, and I sort of try to make a center line for it, and it seems like I haven't done a proper job. It seems like I've just recklessly done something here, but perhaps I have used a ruler or something. Hopefully it'll be all right here, because I have done the die cutting already. So what I did was I just made these marks sort of to get the center point, and I'm going to use the scored line as a guide, because I'm going to put that line across that paper. And I measured up where I was supposed to be as much in the center as possible, as well as having the marks for the die itself. I have marked it out and in 4 places, so I have something to guide me by. And then I have just run it through the Big Shot. In my case, you can just run it through any kind of die cutting machine that takes thin dies, and then you have your circle there, and then there's the die. And I must tell you, having a magnetic cutting plate at the bottom really helps you out, because this one sticks to the magnetic plate. So then you can be secure of, or feel secure of that, having the die in its place while you're rolling it through your machine. So now I have come this far, and one thing to remember is that you're going to make the center line go downwards and the other ones going upwards. So you're going to create an upside down, you're going to create a W basically, W. And that is what you're going to glue down to this piece. But before you do that, just make sure that you are using, just put this in the center as best as you can. Something similar to that. I mean, sometimes when I'm using my eye measurements, sometimes I get it right and sometimes not. But if I want to make sure that I have enough space for my greeting or something, or the stamping I want to do, I could make the circle inside like so. And then I could just have this piece of paper lying around the circle. I mean, after having stamped and everything, I'm going to put some glue on the sides there, because that is what is going to make it enable it to actually close like this. So let's say if I'm going to be able to keep it in place, and let's pretend that I have everything here. You see, this is not the way to go about it. Something has gone wrong here. The card in itself is too narrow for this centerpiece, so I need to think out a different solution for this. In this case, I actually managed to make it work, so it's a good thing for you to just try it out. Will it work or will it not? So in this case, it doesn't. So in this case, I would absolutely want to go for a bigger piece of outside paper. Let's say how big it needs to be. If I'm going to poke it out like that, and I'm thinking that I could use my scoreboard, it needs to be at least 5 1/4 out. It needs to be 11 by 5 1/2. So let me give you a second. Give me a second or two. 11 and 5 1/2. I think I'll actually use my other trimmer just to trim it down, because these papers that I'm using are a little bit too long. And I don't have the proper measurements there for 11. And this one doesn't have it either. So I need to think backwards now, don't I? So I believe that the 11 mark could be there, or it couldn't. So how on earth are you going to mark out the 11? Well, you know what? I'm going to do it like this. Just going to use that one there. And now I'm going to do the scoring, and this one is at 11, so I need to go for 5 1/2. Let's see if I can make it work. It's strange how these tutorials never turn out the way I planned them to be. And of course this paper is a little bit too flimsy to be the outside of that paper, but I just wanted to show you that this is the way to measure up if you want to make it work. So if you want a circle, you really need to have a lot of room on this paper. So in this case I'm thinking I would be able to close it without it coming outside the card, if you know what I mean. Of course, if you want a cleaner look, you could go for the inside piece in the same color. I'm just using this color for demonstrative purposes, so you see what I'm doing here. So let's say I were to glue it down, and I'm going to use a tape runner like this. And in this case I haven't got anything to put in the center, but I think I'll just leave it as it is, as a guide, or a, let's say, a prototype, because I like to make prototypes. And now I'm just going to use my eye measurements, or I'm just going to eyeball it, put it flat like so. And what I did was I put some adhesive here and here, because if I'm going to put adhesive on the complete backside of this, I won't be able to make this tunnel function. So just imagine having something inside here. You would have this peekaboo card, or a tunnel card, or even a shadow box card. So I'm sorry about the mishap, but sometimes you live and you learn. So there we have that one. You can't see it. So just remember, if you are going to do something with a circular shape in the center, make sure that you are cutting out one circle beforehand and marking out the center piece, and score it beforehand so you know where to put those bits, so you can trace it on this paper before you start die cutting. And if you have a die that you can do some marks on, that is even better, of course. If you want to start this process out, why not go for a square shape, square form, where you are just going to experiment with the inside piece. Just decide on, let's say, having a 1 inch wide strip here and just going in, let's say 2 inches while the car is folded like so. So you're getting a U shape, but in the end you're getting a square shape like this. So it's a fun card to make, and I'm thinking that you will have lots of ideas of what to do with this. So shadow box card, tunnel card, peekaboo card. Just pick and choose whatever you want to call it. Bye bye.